Now in this video, Bob Nevola is coming down to my shop tonight to help me make up some custom brake lines for the R1. Now Bob, being a charter member of the A-Team, the official A-Team, we've been to Bob's house many times, done jobs on his motorcycles. He's graciously volunteered to come by tonight. This is his material he's donating to our cause. It's Brakeline material, but you notice it doesn't have ends on. And now because of Bob's unique motorcycles that have all the controls on the right side, he's made many brake lines. So I wanted to take advantage and share with our friends the expertise he has in making brake lines. Now one of the things I always try to do while I'm in the middle of restoring a bike, and I have it up on the rack and it's very easy to do this, replacing the brake lines with steel braided lines. In the past I've always bought them from Dennis Kirk with the ends already on them, and they're relatively expensive. Sometimes it makes me wonder how much of a markup there is on that stuff. And the truth is, when I restored the Kawasaki, I had priced out from one of the companies that made brake line kits. They made a kit for this bike, the 2 lines with all the right fittings and all the fittings you need. It was a kit. It was almost $300 by the time you got all the parts you needed. So I said, geez, you know, that's something for the future, maybe this winter. And if we do it on this bike, you can get them Kawasaki green, or you can get them purple or whatever. You can get the fittings gold and silver. It's very nice that they have all these features, but basically what I just wanted when I did the RD even, I just wanted to have steel brake lines, and the one on the back, very easy to do a replacement of, one on the front, and then bleeding the brakes. And when we do replace the brake lines on future bikes, what we'll do is we'll make a little how-to video. Now what I wanted to mention is there's several motorcycles that I've taken that originally when I bought these bikes they had clip-ons. I've put several sets of Renthal bars. Renthal makes 5 heights of bars. I have all 5. I've gone all through all 5 of the heights, and what I found that suits me real well is to have a set of original. These are the original bars that come on a GS Suzuki. And what's really nice is they work real good on, they're very comfortable on a GS Suzuki. But because I have a spare GS Suzuki, I wound up with the bars. I wound up having a spare set of bars when I bought the spare bike. The original guy gave me a set, and I couldn't find them. And it took me a long time, but I was looking the other day. I found them, I painted them, put them on the bike, and one of the things I have to do is make a longer, by about 2 inches, front brake cable. Now, I'll share this information because it's something that's really important. What happens if you replace the brake lines and the bike is sitting? In this case, it's sitting on a stand. It's sitting here. The forks are compressed probably 1 inch, maybe 2 inches. Every bike's going to be different, of course, depending on the weight of the bike and how you have it up. So if you were to make the brake line and it's tight, well, it's not going to be good, because when the forks extend, as an example, when you're doing a wheelie or you hit a bump, what's going to happen? It makes these brake lines like a banjo string. So you can see these have plenty of play, but I want to have even more play. And what I did to test this, I have my little electronic lift. I lift the bike up by the center of the handlebars. I let the forks extend all the way down, and then I can measure my brake line. Now, another critical thing is I wanted to test ride the bike with these handlebars, which I've done. I've got 3 rides on it. This is the best of the handlebars that I've ever had on here. I've had all 5 of the Renthals on here. This bike, I know it's almost embarrassing, but I have 6 different seats, and I wound up liking the stock seat the best. I have 2 of these tail pieces, one that kind of confines you onto the bike a little more, but it has storage area. So I have a lot of accessories for this bike. I made up this neat little thing that, and this is not really as funny as you think it is, to hold the master cylinder. The problem was, the first time I did it, I tightened the screws too tight and broke the original part. Luckily I had a spare. That was, I guess, just par for the course. Now, the other part of this, a critical thing of when you convert a sport bike to handlebars, you want to be able to move the bars back and forward ever incrementally until it just suits you. It's like this bike has adjustable foot pegs up and down, and in this case, and I've noticed this myself, on a 200-mile ride, everything feels good for 100 miles. If you're only going to ride 100 miles, you really don't have to be concerned with it. But it's that second 100 miles that if the bars are just a little too high, too wide, too short. Now, it just happens for me, I'm about 185 pounds, 190, and 5'11". These bars, the width of the bars and the height are just perfect. Actually, no matter what bike I have. If I had another set, I'd even convert the Kawasaki, but that's a unique situation there. But anyway, so for me, this modification works good. But again, what happens, and several people, including Vince from the A-Team, have asked me, how hard is it to do this? One of the problems to do it, you run into with an R1, the clutch cable isn't long enough. When you go to really GS type bars, the clutch cable actually is about 6 inches too short. So I found a way around that too, that I was going to buy the cable from an FZ10, which has real handlebars. I didn't find that necessary. What I did, by taking off the side panel, I noticed the way they routed the cable, I could route it just a little bit, take a little shortcut, and I bought about 6 inches. Actually, I had an inch left over of play. The brake lines have to be extended when you go to this height, and you have to reroute the throttle cable from in front of to the back of, and that buys you enough throttle cable. Now, I'm saying this because I've already ridden the bike enough to know that I'm very comfortable with the bars, and all these modifications are practical. And the last one is to make this right side brake line about 2 inches longer, jack the bike up on the hoist, make sure I've got enough play, and that should be perfect. Now, being real honest, every bike I've converted from clip-ons, and you got to keep in mind, I've had this bike many years. I've had this bike going on 9 years. So 9 years ago, I was a little more comfortable with lower handlebars. I even was comfortable with clip-ons up to a point. But at 72, I'm 72 now, when I go for a ride on a bike with GS handlebars, the rest of the bike, and what I like about doing this, once you have this system down to where you can, now on this bike, everything tucks right in. I didn't have to replace anything. Even the throttle cable worked out perfectly. The hardest part was making a little bracket for the master cylinder. But the reason I'm saying it is, as we all grow older, it may be that right now you're not interested in this modification for your bike. You may not even want to ever make brake lines. But if you make it to 70, 72, you might want to make some of these modifications. Now, the really nice part of this that I love, and I did this long before Yamaha ever had the idea. Or maybe not. Who knows? And they're not paying me anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the nice thing about this is, this bike, this is an '09, this has got the full R1 engine. When they make the bike and put handlebars on it, the FZ10, they detune the engine. It doesn't have the titanium rods. It doesn't have other things. It doesn't have other things. They detune it about 25 horsepower. So in this case, what I've managed to get is I have the real full horsepower engine with the titanium rods and valves. I have all of the bike has no traction control, so you can imagine how exciting this is to ride. But just keep in mind, this is like a real R1 now. It's not an FZ10. And not that we're erasing anybody, but it's just nice to know this is a unique motorcycle now. I know Vince, for one, wanted to do this to his Aprilia at one time, and I had gotten a set of clip-ons that had a 2-inch rise, and I was amazed that every time I raised the handlebars, the bike got way more comfortable after that first 100 miles. So, and I'd be going to 100 to 150 to 200, sometime on a weekend long ride, I'd be going. And that last 100 miles really wasn't as much fun as I thought it would be. So, I've been long-winded about this because I thought this is a perfect time to combine this with the how do we put the ends on the Brakeline video. The key thing to keep in mind anytime you replace brake lines is, and this one, I have it in the incorrect position now just because I needed that extra inch of length. It really needs to go in a different routing position, which makes the line shorter, and that's why I have it going straight down, just so I could test ride the bike. But I really did, I have to, when I get the final brake line on there, and it'll go in a different location, goes through another rubber grommet, then I want to make sure that these don't interfere, don't hit anything. That's sometime, now see, on the steering dampener, Luciano noticed the first time I rode the bike, this was rubbing on the steering dampener, and of course, eventually, it'll wear a hole in the line. Oh, we don't want that either. So we have to figure out where we may need to make another little bracket or zip tie it or whatever. So it's a beautiful fall evening. I got to ride all day today, and that was very nice. But Bobby should be here any minute. He's already called. He's on his way. And now, I don't believe in doing any of these things with brakes. I probably could just go do it myself, but because, and this is one of the things I always suggest, if you have somebody, we have the A-team here of 10 or so friends that all help each other, and we've been to each other's house, to Glenn's house and Luciano's house and whatever, and Bobby's house. But it's nice if you have somebody that knows how to do this, let them do a demo, watch it in real time, let them supervise you doing the second end before, just don't go out and do it, because if these leak, and I have a whole box of them over there that leak, and when we did raise RD, the lines both leaked. It was a real mess. It's always a good idea if you have somebody that's real good at doing something and you want to do it, watch them do it the first time. Let them kind of help you along. And in this case, this is going to be a candidate this winter for a Brakeline kit, some steel braided lines. And again, I'll try to get as much information out of Bobby. I know this is getting a little long-winded, but I didn't want to have somebody respond to me and say, well, you didn't say you had something else, because for one thing, I am really happy with the way these conversions for me have worked out so well. It has allowed me to ride these bikes and be comfortable, and they're still very high performance bikes. They're not the detuned low end torque versions. One of the best accessories I've ever invested in. It's a Harbor Freight, 75 bucks. It allows me to clean the front wheel or do any work on the front end with the back stabilizing the bike. No risk that it's going to tip over and crush you. Well, to me, this was just and I did make a video to share. There's a video on my channel, of course. And you can see the fork extends when it's on the lift. Just couldn't be any easier than that. Even if you just want to clean the front wheel, what a handy thing that lift is. 75 bucks in Harbor Freight. Now, while we're waiting for Bob, good time to feed the fish. How to install brake lines and feed fish. What a combination. There's the man. Brakeline Bob. Everybody, oh! Now he wants sympathy votes too. Ah, look at it, he's tired. Hard day of work. Now he's got to work for Wendy for no money, just hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
You're getting paid in hot dogs tonight.
Hey.
Okay, so Bobby, while you got here, these are Goodridge. I got some of these from.
You work from home today?
I work from home every day.
Where these come from? Dennis Kirk?
I didn't know that.
Parts Unlimited.
Parts Unlimited. Well, they're common parts anyway.
Since December last year.
How'd you get so lucky?
Was working.
So this is what
Montreal,
comes in this little
Florida.
package.
Wow.
Work from anywhere. Just need an internet connection and a computer and a headset. You're done.
Sounds
These are crush washers. They're going to go between the banjo bolts and here. So the banjo, one crush washer here, one crush washer here. The banjo bolt will go through that. You snug it up tight, 1/4 turn after that. You don't want to muscle it.
Yeah.
All right? And these are copper. So you can actually use these, and then you can, and I think the word's anneal them.
You heat them with a torch.
Heat them up,
to their cherry red.
and then put them right in cold water.
Right. Same thing with RD head gaskets. You can do the
So
same
you can use them again and again. Well, once or twice, not again and again.
Yeah.
All right.
And they do have aluminum ones. I have both, aluminum and
Yeah,
brass.
the aluminum you can't anneal. The
No, once you use them, you throw them away and put new ones
The
in.
copper you could use again more than once. So these are the straight connectors.
Okay.
They this is where you can make your custom lines. This is 3 pieces. This is the collar, this is the ferrule, and this is the actual unit. Okay?
Now, I just want to mention, Bobby has done this many, many times. How many brake lines do you think you've made for your bikes?
Well, I make at least 3 or 4 brake lines per bike.
Per bike, and sometimes you make more than 3 if you
Yeah, because sometimes I have
modifying it. Or
I have to make a connections for both calipers in the front. So then I have to make at least 3 just for the front alone.
Yeah, I just want to try. This is on a macro lens. I'm not sure it's even in focus because this is a cheap camera, of course. We don't have any expensive equipment here. We're doing everything on a budget.
So yeah, the ferrule.
Okay.
The ferrule is what crushes that makes it happen. So there's 2 ends of the ferrule. There's a end with a thin wall, and then there's the end that has a thicker wall.
Okay.
It's more of like it's cupped. That goes over the end of the actual connector.
Okay. A thick wall goes toward the banjo.
Right.
Okay.
And then the way it works, let me just give you a brief idea here. The way the system is designed, let me grab this. All right. You can see there is the plastic tube inside the steel braids.
Right.
You have to actually separate the steel braids away from the steel from the plastic tube. Now you're not going to butcher it. You're going to use a nice little sharp device like an awl or something like that. And all you're going to do is separate it. Because this is braided, it allows you to separate
It'll come like a Chinese necklace apart.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
What happens then with the thin end of the ferrule, you're going to slip it in between the plastic tube and the steel braids. Now, I'm sorry. Now, I forgot to mention, before you do that, you basically have to...
That's got to go on first.
That's got to go on first. Otherwise, you
It's
basically...
redo it.
Yeah, you got to redo
Now,
it.
do you ever get to use these fittings over and over?
No,
Or they're one.
Right.
This is a one crush thing, and
One
you're done.
crush thing. One crush thing, you're done.
Okay.
So you're going to have the collar on like this. You're going to separate the steel braids from the plastic tube. You're going to put this over the plastic tube. All right?
Okay.
And then, once it's over the plastic tube, then this goes in, this comes up, and you just simply tighten it up until it gets really tight.
Okay.
And this will crush everything and make a tight hydraulic seal. Now, does that make sense for you?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
All
But
right,
I
so-
wanted to just do this for the A-team, you know.
Right, and so now one of the things that these are aluminum, so you have to be a little careful
Yeah,
that you don't just damage it, which is where this comes in. You could put this inside of a vise, put it
Okay,
here,
or vice grip pliers or
vice
something.
grip pliers, put it here, and this will hold it really tight.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about it.
Let's show how that. Can you take your hand away? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're not getting paid.
No. So it's going to
Everything
go like
we do
that.
is free.
It's
There you
going to
go.
go in here.
I got you.
The ferrule's inside. You're
Okay.
going to stick this in and then screw this in. See how tight the threads are? So you do have a lot of leeway, and you
Yeah.
just you cinch it up. This you can really kind of muscle. Now again, because these are aluminum, you grip this with this pair of a tool.
You ruin it. Yeah,
You ruin
you
it.
ruin
So
it, right.
I actually made this. Wait a minute. I just cut up some thick plastic
Okay.
with a duct tape on it, and so this basically goes like this.
I got you.
Like
So you
that.
don't booger it up.
So you don't booger it up. So now you could use look at the the pliers that I use on this.
Yeah,
You can really
yeah.
muscle the hell out of it and make it up tight, and that's it.
Okay.
And that's it. Now, obviously, if you really want to do a super job, you have to take into account the length of this along with the length of the hose. But most of the time.
No, I've carefully measured this all out. You taking into account the fittings.
Okay, so then that's it. And that's it. You do one end, do the other. The only thing you may have to just be cognizant of is the position of the actual fitting, because
Otherwise, you put a twist in a hose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand that.
That's it. Okay, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That sounds pretty straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward. The only thing you got to be obviously careful of is I used a tool.
How much do you have to pull that stainless steel back?
Enough to simply just fit this ferrule in there.
Okay, so
That's
a
it.
quarter of an inch?
Yeah,
Okay.
quarter of an inch, and you want to make sure that this collar on the ferrule actually goes to the top of the to the end of the plastic tube.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, you don't want to have this, just a little bit. You want to have it all the way in. You want to have the steel braided line really around the ferrule. As you can see, like you said, it's very
Yeah,
thin wall,
yeah.
so it gives you plenty of opportunity to do that. And then and that's it.
So what Bobby did, we skinned back this material, did this exactly like what we just said, and now the only thing left to do is to tighten this. And because this is aluminum, we're going to use his little shims and an adjustable wrench. I did it hand tight as I could. Oh, you can do it a little bit more. But then the final little bit I'll do with a, I guess, an open end wrench. I want to see from your perspective how tight that was.
Right.
Enough here.
All right. So, see, this is what I mean about the.
You want to put a piece of tape on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll put a piece of tape. Then it won't jump off. So I don't know if this is going to show on the macro lens, but we've got that tightened up that Bobby's happy with it. He said he guarantees I'm going into the MotoGP weekend and I'll go overboard here or something.
Be able to stand the front wheel up on it.
I think that's unbelievable.
You
Now,
know?
the nice thing about this, it allows you to set this wherever you think, because sometimes the line, you don't want to have the thing like looking like a pig's tail,
Right, and you don't want to. Yeah, I mean, obviously the line could twist a little bit, but it's not going to.
Yeah, but you don't want to make it like a corkscrew either.
No, because it's a steel braided line. It's designed not to flex.
Yes. Okay, now Bobby and I decided what happened is we went on. First off, trick number one is we forgot to put the part on. So, not that we're that stupid or anything. We didn't put the part. The part on has to go on.
Here's the collar.
Okay, so what we're going to do to get hopefully a nicer cut, Bobby suggested putting some tape, and we have plenty of length. So I'll use the parting wheel, but he's got special pliers, but he didn't bring them today.
Oops.
So this took a little more time than I thought it would. Worth the time, because now we know how to comfortably do this. Allows us to make custom lines, and it's about a fraction of the price of buying these things when they're already made up. And the only thing left now to do, and it's a video for another day, is just swap the line out and we'll be ready to ride. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you, Bob Nevola, for sharing the information with us, and thanks for watching.